The film opens with Tony impatiently tapping her feet while waiting for Payne to get ready. Payne is a boxer whom Tony represents, and his match is about to begin. Outside, people are already waiting. Inside, Payne's grandmother, Granny Rita, is giving him a massage while Tony encourages him to give his best performance. We're then taken 8 years into the past. A younger, tomboyish Tony is seen, visibly frustrated. She angrily removes and breaks her headset. Later, in a public place, she texts someone named Darius. In front of her, street performers are entertaining the crowd, which helps her relax a bit. Afterwards, she heads to the bus station. Once off the bus, Tony walks down a street, eats a slice of pizza, and casually enters a house. The house appears to be a boxing gym. It has a ring, a punching bag, and posters on the walls. Blues music fills the air as Tony inspects the equipment. Meanwhile, Payne is shown boxing in the ring. Tony, swaying to the music, is startled when the music suddenly stops. A man with a stick approaches. This is Elliot, the owner of the place. Elliot doesn't appreciate Tony's uninvited presence and demands to check her bag, suspecting she might have bad intentions. Tony throws him her bag, which only contains personal belongings. Embarrassed, she defends herself, asking if she really looks like a thief. Elliot replies, "Everyone's like that. The problem is, nobody looks like that." Tony explains her real reason for being there. She wants to practice boxing. They exchange introductions and the story jumps back to the present, where Tony is seen watching Payne's match on a screen, visibly stressed. Flashbacks show that Tony had convinced Elliot to let her stay and train in his gym. Elliot isn't just any coach. He's a top-tier trainer who has mentored some of the best boxers. Tony reminds him of that, and Elliot emphasizes that precision and accuracy are what make a great boxer. When Tony brings up a boxer named Ayam, Elliot recalls meeting her before in a park. This is true. Tony had admired Ayam and had seen Elliot on an obscure boxing YouTube channel. She had always wanted to train under him. She even offers to pay for coaching, but Elliot gets upset, saying, "It's not about the money." Still, he seems reluctant to train her. Tony starts to think his hesitation is because she's German. Back in the present, Tony steps out of the room and we flash back again. Payne is shown waiting to meet Tony. His assistant had scheduled this meeting without Tony's knowledge. At this time, Tony is pregnant and doesn't want to talk, so she tries to leave. Payne becomes agitated. He must speak with her. As Tony ignores him and gets into her car, Payne tries to follow, but Tony's assistant blocks him. In frustration, Payne punches the assistant, knocking him to the ground. Tony jumps into her car and speeds off, but the camera reveals Payne is in the passenger seat. After a tense silence, Tony pulls over and confronts him. She tells Payne he's the kind of person who can't even wait a minute, someone who lacks the discipline needed in the ring. Payne, feeling cornered, reveals his own insecurities. He thinks Tony doesn't want to sign him because he's black. Tony says nothing. Payne opens the door and walks away. Flashback again, this time to one of Tony's earliest visits to Coach Elliot's gym. She's trying to convince him to train her. After some resistance, Coach Elliot finally acknowledges that Tony does have the raw qualities of a fighter. Eager to impress, Tony gets into a stance, ready to punch. But her confidence betrays her. She stumbles and falls instead. Coach Elliot doesn't laugh. He extends a hand and helps her up. For Tony, boxing isn't just a sport. It's her way of proving that no one can mess with her. For Coach Elliot, boxing is about more than glory. It's about respect and earning your place in a world that often refuses to give it. Despite seeing her potential, he still urges Tony to walk away. But Tony is firm. She wants to show her father she's not just his daughter. She's her own person, strong and capable. In the present, Tony is seen pacing nervously. Her daughter has a fever, and Tony keeps calling Darius, checking on her condition. She gives him clear instructions: medicine, doctor consultation, and a reminder to tell her when the child falls asleep. Then back in the gym, Tony gears up for practice. Coach Elliot tests her with a loaded question. "Do you think I'd hurt a woman?" Tony, without flinching, echoes his own words back to him. "Everybody's like that, but nobody looks like that." Impressed, Elliot inspects Tony's shoes. She proudly says they're her size, 6.5 or 7. Elliot hands her a locker key and tells her to grab size 7 shoes. When Tony opens the locker, it's full of footwear, mostly dance shoes. She picks a pair, a bit confused but says nothing. Coach Elliot watches closely. These aren't just shoes, they're a test. He begins to lay down the rules. Attitude, habitude, gratitude. These are his pillars. And here in his gym, his rules are law. No arguments, no exceptions. He pulls out a magazine and shows Tony a picture of Buddy Guy, the same blues legend whose music filled the gym earlier. He tells Tony to wear the boots and show her dancing moves, subtly mocking her. It's clear he's trying to push her away, see if she'll quit, but Tony doesn't back down. She tells the coach she's not just a party girl or some club dancer. She demands a chance to prove herself, not with dancing but with boxing. Elliot shrugs and walks away to his office. Behind him, Tony turns on the blues music and begins dancing, not to entertain, but to challenge. Elliot watches from a distance. She dances hard, then collapses to the ground, breathless. Elliot steps out silently, walks over, and says nothing. Afterward, Tony goes to take a shower. As she returns, ready to leave, Coach Elliot stops her with a smirk. "You haven't finished your dusting." The irony hits her. Just moments ago, he wanted her gone. Now he's asking her to stay. Tony smiles. She knows this is it. Her dream of becoming a trained boxer is finally within reach. Later, Elliot asks Tony about her past. She opens up, haunted by a memory of a soccer match she once lost. Not because she lacked skill, but because foul play was involved. Tony's team was on the verge of winning when a blonde girl from the opposing team slyly hid the ball, triggering Tony's anger. She shouted at the girl, only to receive a warning from the referee. Moments later, the same girl tripped Tony, making her fall hard on her knees, bleeding profusely, but no one seemed to notice. Instead, Tony was falsely accused of pushing the opponent and was ejected from the game with a penalty. From that day on, Tony developed a deep hatred for unfairness. In another flashback, Tony is seen walking with a limp from an ankle injury, while others mock her. One girl takes the teasing too far, and Tony snaps, punching her square on the nose, causing it to bleed. Then we see Payne performing in the ring, being watched on a screen by Tony. Quietly, she turns off the broadcast. Back in time, after hearing Tony's determination, Elliot agrees to train her. Tony puts on her shoes, but the coach tells her to train barefoot, to feel her connection with the ground. Smiling, Tony removes her shoes again, but Elliot is caught off guard by the messy room, expecting Tony to be neat and organized. Ironically, Tony is great at cleaning up after others, just not herself. Later, the two sit down and begin to talk. Tony shares that she earned her first dollar at 14 by selling a burger. Elliot, in turn, reveals his troubled past, having dealt drugs to support his family. Tony's training soon begins with endless sit-stand drills. Eventually, her legs go numb, and she collapses from exhaustion. But after a short break, she pushes herself to keep going. Elliot tells her, "Always end standing." Their conversation continues, juxtaposed with scenes of Payne's present-day fight. In the past, Elliot introduces a new exercise. He throws balls at Tony from all directions, training her reflexes to dodge them like incoming attacks from real opponents. Back in the present, Payne is announced as the champion. In training, Tony dodges ball after ball, showing improvement, until one hits her near the eyebrow. Elliot immediately rushes over, tending to her with care. For him, student safety always comes first. Later in the present, Tony is on a call with Darius, asking him to quiet their daughter's screeching. In another flashback, she talks about Darius with Elliot, speaking fondly of him, but Elliot senses something and eventually tells her she did great today and should rest. His praise touches Tony. It's more sincere than anything she ever received from Darius. Darius, however, wants Tony to behave like a proper girl, wear feminine clothes, attend social events, and fit into his world. He's even annoyed by her German accent. We then see Tony showcasing her uppercut moves and calling Darius to pick her up, but he refuses. She later brings him up again while talking to Elliot. A flashback to a party shows Tony casually dressed, clearly uncomfortable. As the music blares and everyone enjoys themselves, Tony yawns loudly, drawing awkward stares. She didn't belong there and rarely attended parties. When she did, she only ended up embarrassing Darius. During a heartfelt conversation, a flashback surfaces, one from the day Tony officially introduced Payne to the media. After the reporters leave, Philip playfully teases her, questioning how she could trust Payne now. Tony, unfazed, reminds Philip to mind his manners and walks away with quiet confidence. Back in the present, Tony calls Darius again, checking in on their daughter. She reassures him that tomorrow will be dedicated fully to their family, because no matter what, they are her priority. Once the call ends, Tony sits in silence, eyes glistening, emotions stirring beneath the surface. A knock breaks the stillness. Granny Rita steps inside, informing Tony that Payne needs her encouragement, urging her to come outside. Tony refuses, overwhelmed, admitting she doesn't think she can handle it. Rita gently persists, sharing how her own 16-year-old granddaughter is obsessed with Tony and sees her as a role model. If Payne loses tonight, Rita warns with a hint of humor, the world will blame you for not being there. And my granddaughter? I'll bring her to your office, and you'll have to answer to her. Trust me, she's just like you. Tony smiles despite herself. Rita's words settle into her heart. Another flashback begins. Tony's training continues. Intense weightlifting, push-ups, punching drills. But when it's time for pull-ups, Tony struggles. Despite Elliot's instructions, she fails repeatedly. Frustrated, Elliot tells her to leave. They argue, both emotionally charged. In the present, Tony, overwhelmed, picks up a bowl of candy and hurls it to the floor. Back in the past, Tony angrily packs her belongings. But then, something shifts. She stops, breathes, and begins to tidy up, cleaning the room and erasing the message on the board that said to leave the space as it was found. Tony finds herself on the rooftop, smoking quietly. Elliot joins her, concerned that Darius never showed up. He doesn't want to leave Tony alone. She opens up, and they talk. Elliot shares his past. His mother, addicted to drugs, had abandoned him emotionally and even sent him to jail. The pain of that betrayal still echoes in his life. Later, Elliot brings Tony back to the gym. As she wraps a bandage around her injured hand, he realizes she's been punching walls to deal with her frustration. Gently, he advises her to always take care of her hands, because in boxing, hands are everything. Her career, her power, her voice. Tony, now focused, puts on her gloves and starts punching the bag with renewed strength. Elliot trains her harder than ever. His coaching synchronized with Payne's current fight, where Payne uses those very techniques. In a symbolic moment, Tony steps into the ring to spar with Elliot, but instead of fighting, he quietly sits on a stool. A powerful silence falls between them. In the present, Payne starts losing his fight. Meanwhile, Tony, watching from the sidelines, urges both her coach, in memory, and Payne, in reality, to get up. Her voice trembles but holds power. Back in the past, Elliot collapses unconscious during training. In the present, Tony removes her footwear and rushes barefoot toward the ring. Her urgency speaks volumes. Payne cannot lose. Not now. Just as she's leaving, her phone rings. It's Darius. He tells her their daughter is doing fine, and maybe it's for the best that Tony left for the ring. The film ends here, with Tony's barefoot run symbolizing her raw, unfiltered commitment to the sport and her fighter.